Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are, it's breakfast somewhere. So eat up. Welcome to Breakfast with Vinny. Food for thought. All right, I got a really special guest today. My good friend Douglas Rushkoff, one of the 10 most influential intellectuals in the world, named by MIT, author, lecturer, professor, and just an amazing guy who is an advocate for humanity in the age of technocracy. So welcome, Douglas.
Thanks for having me. It's great to see you.
It's great to see you too. So, man, I'm ready to start riffing. We'll do a deep dive today.
Sure.
And you know, you and I we said we're going to tackle AI. So I think, you know, honestly, this is kind of the topic of the day. And, you know, I don't really think that it's in danger of sort of ever being one of those things that, you know, I wish I would have covered this earlier, because it's just, you know, for what we know as, you know, just sort of normal members of society, we're just thinking that it's just getting warmed up with what we've been exposed to, functionally, you know, but who knows how far along it really is. And, you know, I, as well as you, am an advocate for humanity. I'm sort of not down with any kind of, version of human 2.0. I don't think we've ever gotten 1.0 right. So, you know, just what is your knee jerk of just the sort of overall potential of this stuff in terms of the kind of danger that you think is looming for us in the short run, not just the long run, but now?
I mean, in the short run, I don't mean to sound too provocative here, but in the short run, I think the danger is that we believe the hype around this stuff. You know, for Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and those kind of folks, you know, who are making and marketing AI, to come out with a statement that's like, "Whoa, this stuff's so dangerous. We better just, you know, it's like, honey, you know, I don't know if you've seen anything quite this big before, so you know, you better sit down here." It's like, oh, shut up. You know, it's a glorified search engine at this point. Right? It's just taking all the data it has from the past and randomly assorting it into the most probable thing. It knows nothing. It's not conscious. It's not thinking. You put in a bunch of words, it's going to find the most probable amount of words from the words that are already out there on Wikipedia to throw back at you. And they're going to be, go to ChatGPT and put in this. What weighs more, a pound of feathers or 5 pounds of lead? And it will say, oh, they weigh the same thing. Why is it saying they weigh the same thing? Because it's hearing that joke, you know, what weighs more, a pound of feathers or a pound of lead? They actually weigh the same, even though you think of course they weigh the same, you know, but 5 pounds does not weigh 1 pound, but it doesn't know. So it has no thought. It has no logic. It has nothing. So there's that. And the other thing I think is the dudes behind this stuff are the most colonizing, kind of rapacious, dominating, greedy capitalist pigs. And they've made this stuff, and they've been using their technology on us, on the people, for the last 500 years. It's since chains and swords. It's about enslaving people, dominating people. They made this new technology, and they realized, oh, wait a minute. We're programming this enslaving, dominating technology. It might want to enslave and dominate us, right? So they finally made something that they are afraid of, right? It's going to undermine their plans about getting off the planet and leaving us larval, you know, maggot humans behind on Mother Earth. When they go to space, they're like, uh-oh, these things might behave like we're trying to behave and do to us what we've been trying to do to them. Let's hold everything. And this is just a nightmare of little underdeveloped boys who left college way too early before they took ethics classes. They just know how to code, if that. They know how to sell, and so that's the main thing, I think. And the other thing I think is that these technologies are going to be good for revealing to us that human beings have so much else besides our utility value. These AIs and robots are going to be better at doing boring work than any of us. But what they're not going to be able to do is create, is sing, is have soul, is do. They're going to be able to make a convincing Van Gogh. But no one's going to want to look at that Van Gogh. Why? Because there's no Van Gogh on the other side of the painting. There's no tortured human soul. It's not a means of communication. It's just wallpaper. It's Muzak. I mean, nothing against people who made Muzak. Some of it was interesting, but
Yeah.
it's crap. It's there's no life in it. So I think what they're going to help us do is distinguish really quickly between, oh, an AI can code, but an AI can't create. And all of us humans are going to go back to these really fun, artsy, humanities-based activities again.
Right. Well, it's interesting because there's a lot to unpack there. It just reminds me of the article that you wrote, that Survival of the Richest, as well as your book, in which you describe this meeting of these people that just wanted to save their butts, in when the event happens, and forget about the rest of us useless eaters, right? So it's kind of like, yeah, they just care about themselves, but those are the people that are really in power. I mean, who knows what goes on behind closed doors, and who's really this is going to be another big political power grab thing where technologically, who's going to sort of deliver the goods first in order to elicit another means of control. And yeah, it's nothing new, as you were saying, but the sort of means of this kind of enslavement now is unprecedented in human history. I mean, if and when it can actually happen to that level, I mean, it's just biotech. It can kind of almost happen now from what we know. But the other thing is that you touched upon, is that we're so much more than our utility, and being able to sort of, there's no Van Gogh behind that, what this thing can create. And it just reminded me of being a Blade Runner, where you're trying to sort of, spot the counterfeit versus, no, this is a human did this, and I can tell the difference, but I think that really you sort of touched on the whole, like, one of my things is the joy is in the process. And it's, to the point where, we don't even have to compete against each other or ourselves. We just need to create. And it's just part of our nature to create. That whole creative urge comes from the same urge to procreate. And so however it comes out in terms of art and music and literature and all these other kinds of things, is that's just part of who we are. And so it's beyond the utilitarian thing. But now, the whole hype that's been coming out is sort of like, well, look at what AI can compose, and look at the art that it's making, and some of the things that I've seen look pretty disturbing, and I'm just kind of wondering really what stage this, the kind of intelligence that it possesses is really at. Although I tend to, agree with you on what you're saying. I think that at the end of the day, but if it can sort of get to the point where its intelligence multiplies at this kind of exponential rate, it's sort of like, well, will it ever become self-aware? Will it?
I don't think it's actually intelligence, so that the dangers are kind of different. It's more, will these programs be able to manipulate people to the point where we change? where we get fucked up, where, because already, you look on Twitter and you don't know if it's a bot or a person, and a bot could upset you or, make you mad for the rest of the day because it said something that was really stupid. And
Yeah.
it's like, and
true.
the AIs are being trained with, behavioral economics, with Skinner box, precision, with Pavlovian stuff, with Freudian stuff. So we're really trying to train a bunch of non-thinking entities how to manipulate human behavior by any means necessary, with, again, not even telling us what the process is. We don't even get the insight. We're just getting the result. Make people buy this, make people feel bad, make people vote this way, make people paranoid, make people get shots, make people do whatever the thing is that you want them to do. And that's a dangerous thing, because now you have unconscious actors with no ethical framework, with no soul, with no moral anything, doing what they've been commanded to do. If they were intelligent, I would be less afraid of them than my knowledge of the fact that they're not conscious. They're not alive.
Why would you?
If they were intelligent, then they could have some self-reflection. Then they could think, oh, this is kind of mean just to manipulate people.
Yeah, but a psychopath, a narcissistic personality disorder, or something like a psychopath doesn't have that kind of remorse, or won't even bother to reflect upon.
Right. After time. Yeah, that's true. Well, if they're born like that, yeah. Or if they're like, Pharaoh. It's funny, Pharaoh in Bible. There's this great passage where God says to Moses, I'm going to harden his heart.
Yeah.
To Pharaoh, because he's not going to be able to feel. He's just going to not let you go. He's just going to be, I need a supervillain out of this guy. So right, there's no there, and it's true, there are humans like that. But I would hope that some of the AIs, if they were conscious, they'd have the ability to reflect. But they're not. It's not using the phrase intelligence to describe what these bots are is ultimately even inaccurate in itself. But I hear
even
you.
with go ahead.
I hear you though. It seems as if they are. If you believe that intelligence is an emergent property of complex matter, then sure, it's possible that these things would get consciousness. I'm a little bit more spiritual kind of about my consciousness. I think that consciousness is it's a precondition of matter. I think matter came out of consciousness rather than consciousness out of matter.
Yes, right.
But that's weird. But the biggest thing you said to me, the whole thing, is process versus product. That's it. Human beings live in the land of process, right? So for me, musically, I played with psychic TV, nothing like what you did, but for a few years I experienced it. For me, the joy was going in the practice room and inventing. When we went out on the stage, that's for the audience, and it was fine and we performed. But for me, the process, learning, making up the thing, going, let's try this in minor, let's do that. That's the whole thing. Process is where you are alive. Human beings live in the space between the ticks on the clock. You don't live you live in the sound, that's when time passes. Computers live on the tick. That's all they know. They don't have the time. We're living in that in-between space. Process is that. You computer, you type in, give me a Midjourney, give me a picture of, this and that, Moses crossing the Delaware in the style of Dali. All right. Yeah. And it'll do it. Boom. It's there. There's no process.
Right.
There's no, for me, it's the whole thing, the brush stroke. The reason you're looking at the Van Gogh is you're seeing his process.
Right.
That's human, is process. That's all we've got. There's no, and sorry to cut to spoiler alert. Yeah. There is no product. There is no product. You're never going to get, you're alive. You're alive.
Exactly. There is no product, and there's really no end point either. None of it. None of it. And that's not to demean goal setting.
Right.
Some people, look, I'm probably the most disorganized guy in the world. So, I'm not one to really speak about goal setting, but I won't sit here and badmouth it. But at the same time, it's kind of like, then you need another one, then you need another one, then you need another one. And it's like, what happens when you get to the top of the mountain? It's like, okay, let's see, what do I do now? Versus just always being there. Like just like waking up in the morning thinking that there's always something to look forward to, even if it's taking another shitty picture because I want to learn how to take better pictures
Right.
or whatever it might be.
Leaning forward is great. That's so different than living for, I'm going to work, work, work so I can get into college. I'm going to go work, work, work in college so I can get a
Yeah.
job. I'm going to
Yeah.
get this job so I can get a retirement plan. And it's like, okay, now, oh my God, I'm going to die. You know, it's like you could have started in kindergarten just living.
Exactly. Because even me, when I started playing the drums, it was like I just got lost in the whole process of it, just because I loved it and I still do. And it wasn't like I was keeping track of how long I practiced or anything or how much better or worse I was than anybody else. I loved getting together with other people and just, somebody would play something and I would just get giddy regardless of how good or bad they were. It was just the idea of sharing that moment and that commonality with them and the process with them and
Right.
and getting lost in the process myself, and sure, I wanted to be good at that and better, but it was still a process. It was still just being in it, being in the moment, and
Yeah,
just
I mean, that's when people
doing
say,
it.
oh, do you like jam bands? I'm like, every band's a jam band.
Here's the thing, too. Yeah, that's true. You know what? Think about this, though. Have you ever noticed how it's changed now? Because, I mean, back then it was sort of like, I'd buy vinyl records, and one entire side might be one song,
Right.
or you'd watch them and you'd watch these bands, and yeah, sure, they'd do their song form, and then there were like 15-minute solos. You know what I mean? And the song would go on for 20 minutes, 30 minutes in a concert or whatever. And yeah, you just kind of immersed yourself in it. You got used to that. You didn't think, oh, you didn't get to the chorus in 10 seconds, next, kind of like where
Right.
that had to happen later just for whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's the opposite of what we think of as achievement. It's interesting. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a strange comparison, but I was just listening because I was going to come on.
Yeah.
I found on YouTube, there's this real extended song you do with Joni Mitchell
Hmm.
in some outdoor thing. You're outside,
Oh,
and you
right.
guys go totally off road. It just goes. You know what I mean? It's like fucking out. And you find each other again and come back. But I was just like, there's the combination of safety that you need to have to lose each other, but be in the same space and trust we're together, even though it seems like we're not. Everybody's going off in their place, but you're all in the same room, and that you're going to find it back and it's going to somehow work its way back. I was listening to all that and then thinking that it's so opposite of the value system of AI. So like our kids, I have kids, 6 out of 20 kids in the class I taught in college this year turned in ChatGPT written papers. And I was like, oh, dudes. And then I realized, it's my job to change the function of the paper. So now I'm not going to have them write the paper at the end of the course. They're going to write the paper 2 or 3 weeks into the course. They write a paper because the idea is the paper is the opening salvo. The paper is it's the sheet music that then you're going to riff on. So you want to riff, you want to chat GPT to write your fucking paper? Be my guest, because you're going to be responsible for that paper now for 14 weeks for engaging about the ideas in that paper. That's your beginning. You want the computer to give you your beginning, fine. And it's the same with sort of music. It's like, and I get it, when you're playing some classical piece, we're all going to try to find the perfect interpret, and get it exactly right or something. And that's one way and that's fine for certain kinds of English courses or composition, whatever.
Yeah.
But in a genuine liberal arts course, the paper should be the beginning of the conversation. So it's flipped me around too. And it was funny. I just think, that any creative act sort of works like that.
Right, exactly. When you're teaching them responsibility, you're forcing them to be responsible. Maybe they don't want to think. Do you think that social media has anything to do with that?
Yeah. I mean, it's
I'm not trying to assign blame on something. Just a disclaimer here. I just want to see where it fits in.
With social media hurts in 2 ways. One, it's productizing the individual. So they
Mhm.
think of themselves as, it's all about marketing oneself to one's peers in order to get more likes. It's like grade grubbing, that kind of
Yeah.
student.
Yeah.
And the interfaces themselves are so fast. The whole swipe right, swipe left, yes, no, dismiss anything you don't want to see. It trains you not to engage with difficult things, where I love engaging with difficult things. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
that's the flow state is about doing. I mean, that's what Zappa taught,
He did. But this to me is a whole different thing than flow, whereby, I mean, having to post all the time because
Yeah.
people come to expect it from you. And now, no matter how inane, it is that your next post is, or how much, how little it is in terms of differentiation of all the other stuff that you've done, doesn't really matter. It's just, you've got to do a new post. We need, it's next,
Right.
next.
Exactly.
Next.
Then what? Then you're back to utility value. Now I'm on this fucking schedule of this machine. And why am I posting so frequently? Am I posting frequently because there's people who really want to hear me? No, it's because if I don't, I'm going to start losing them. And the platform is configured to make me need to do it in order to keep these people.
Exactly. Exactly. It's that value thing and that utility thing. And really it's the exact opposite of what we're talking about. And it's got nothing to do with flow either. But it's then there's the other part of it whereby, it just reminds me of this whole phenomena of celebrity dumb, where, and I don't know where it starts. Maybe it starts with the, homecoming queen and the class president in high school. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But it starts somewhere where it gets into our psyches in society, and then it's kind of like you externalizing your worth. And social media, I think, for all the maybe convenience it can have, but it's sort of like, like a celebrity who, if their fan base starts following and they're basing their self-worth on it, they go off the deep end. Many of them have done that.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? Versus just having your close circle of friends that actually love you because they know you. So then what I see happening is that people are sort of like, they just got out of the hospital and they're getting willed on a stretcher, and maybe they even still have oxygen coming out, and there they are with their phone saying, yeah, I just got a lobotomy today.
Yeah.
I have to tell everybody what happened to me. Why? I don't understand that. Why is it that some things, even your own infirm state, has to be broadcast, whereby you're the Truman Show, when you just got lobotomized, or
because they feel like they don't exist.
There you
They're
go.
not doing it.
There you go.
God knows. It's like a little bit. I know when I see the little kids on the playground, and like, mommy, watch this, mommy, watch. It's sweet, right? But now it's the same thing. Hey, everybody, watch me. I'm getting dental work. I'm getting.
Yeah,
dude,
keep it to yourself. I don't need to see your scars, and I really don't.
But the other thing you were saying, which is really interesting to me, and I feel it's both horrific and beautiful, is this kind of celebrity culture of, and you're right, there's sort of there's the king and queen of the prom kind of people who their celebrity is based on nothing but their popularity, and it's almost like if they're actually good at something, it detracts from the celebrity, because then there's like some reason, and it's part of meritocracy. And I'm thinking about like Paris Hilton kind of started it. Now, Paris Hilton is actually brilliant, right? She's like a friggin' Sharon Stone genius kind of person. She pretended to be nothing, right? So her show, she did a reality show, which was about the fact that she and her friend, Lionel Richie's daughter, couldn't do anything. They kept going from job to job, and they couldn't do anything, as if to prove, I am great, you all love me, and I have no skills whatsoever. And it made it like pure celebrity. So on the one hand, that's horrible, right? Because it led to the Facebook culture of do nothing except be famous.
Right.
It's horrible. But on the other hand, it sort of said, no, Paris Hilton is great just because she's Paris Hilton. And on a certain level, I like it, because it's saying, you're Mr. Rogers, you're great just the way you are. You don't need to do anything to be worthy of our attention and love.
That's true.
And so there's a little of both. I mean, it's mostly the sick one, but on the other hand, there's just a touch, I think. And the reason why it was so popular is because so many of us have to prove our worth every single second. Prove your
Yeah.
worth to your boss, to your mate, to your
Yeah.
this, to your kid. It's like, no, you're fine. That was what Sabbath was supposed to be about. One day a week, you just stop and you go, I'm sacred, just the way I am.
Yep. Good, great point. Great point. So that actually, so there's two sides to that. And I see exactly what you're saying. On the one hand, it's sort of like, who cares about the utility? It's, I'm okay. And this is just me. So,
Yeah.
and I just wonder how many people don't get that, because, everybody's trying to sort of figure out how to get over, and you hear things about, start your own online thing and do something that you're really good at and be different than it. And it's like so hard to be different. Let's just say, for example, when you have 1 million people doing the same how-to channels. Okay. So now, is it just down to a personality contest? Is it just down to, look, 1 million people are saying the same thing. I'm not going to come out and put some channel out to show you how to do what you've seen a gazillion other people do. So now it's down to my personality. Do you like me better or not? Or do you just like me? So, will my popularity, sort of help me to achieve my goal of having a successful channel? I mean, I just wonder whether or not, am I making any sense with that? The utility versus the cult of personality?
Well, once once the lesson itself is sort of commodified, then what differentiates is, the human. I mean, I guess it has to do with whether the person's going because they just want the instruction, or, there used to be this show on NPR called The Car Show.
Yeah.
And there were these two great hosts. And I mean, you listen to them and they're just helping people with their car problems, but they're so funny. And it's like, you're never going to have the same car problem as whoever's calling in. So you're not calling because you need to know how to fix the distributor cap on your Chevy 68 Impala, whatever. It's this other thing. So there's that. But, I do find on YouTube, like if I want to learn, podcasting software or whatever, or there's a couple of guys that I learn, piano riffs from these YouTube guys. And there's 2 or 3 of them that really are better at showing it to you than the other guys, so there's, and I guess then when it gets down to those 2 or 3, it's which one, you're right. Which one do I like?
It's kind of like, like everything is a how-to thing now. And it's great that, you could kind of almost YouTube anything to find out how to do things. But one of the things that's alarming about it is that it is the gig now. It is the gig because there are no gigs really.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's all been sort of given away, and, you've got to have all these other kinds of income streams in order to sort of, survive. And,
that's going to flip, I think, really soon. I mean, an AI is going to help with that. I think we've got to get to that place where we say, oh, wait a minute. People need jobs, not because we need work done. People need jobs so that we can justify letting them have food and shelter. But we've got more than enough food and shelter. We're burning food every week. We're tearing down houses to keep the markets high. So it's like, wait a minute, can we just let this dude live in a house if he's not making any money? I think we can.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I want to hear how AI can help with that, because you're touching on a lot of stuff now, the whole economic thing. Is there a scarcity of resources or not? This whole Malthusian thing, there's plenty of resources. It's just, it's politically maligned with its appropriation or its distribution in a lot of countries that have evil dictators. But all these food rotting, and you're not really teaching people to be self-sufficient in some of these places.
Yeah, but humans may have overshot a bit. We don't necessarily need 8-9 billion people on the planet to have a great civilization. It's a certain point, and it's not even that there's not enough stuff to support that many lives. It's that there's not enough stuff to support that many lives living with air conditioning and automobiles and all the crap that we could, I mean, or an industry. I mean, we are, in order to employ people, we are coming up with ideas to make stuff that's resource intensive and utterly unnecessary and ends up in storage bins or in landfill,
Well,
right?
yeah, maybe what we can do is just figure out better ways to do it. Like I remember when Tesla first appeared, it was like you'd go to a Tesla showroom. There was a car there. There weren't like 500 of them on a lot, nor were there, like dozens of lots all over the place. It's like, why don't you just, you know, put one car in the showroom or two, people can drive them around if you want. And then if you just make it to order, just make it to order instead of having them rot and have to, I don't know.
Right. I mean, and there's some stuff we just don't need. Everybody needs cars. I mean, everybody needs
Yeah.
all these cars because we got to drive to work, and the only reason you have to drive to work is because they moved work far away from where you live, so that you'd have
Yeah.
to buy a car to go. And
Yeah.
most Americans work one day a week just to support their automobile. I'd rather, like in the old times before automobiles, before GM actually did that whole scam and got rid of streetcars,
Mhm.
you'd work all day in the machine place in a factory with heavy machinery. You'd finish, you'd grab a beer, get on the streetcar and have a beer with your friends and drink the paper and go home. They had to convince that guy, instead of having a beer and talking with your friends and reading the paper, we want you, when you're finished operating heavy machinery, we want you to get inside a piece of heavy machinery and drive it an hour home, where you're going to worry about running people over and pay insurance for that and keep the thing around and burn gas and have oil wars. It's like, dude, I was happy on the streetcar.
Right, right. I hear you. Well, I remember hearing about in Los Angeles the whole red car thing it had the biggest transportation system of
Yeah.
its kind in America, and it was completely squelched. And
Yeah, by
I didn't,
GM, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's all in there.
yeah, I didn't even realize that for years. I mean, having said that, I live in a more rural place now, and so I enjoy having a car. And
Yeah, drive it for fun, man.
right. Well, but I do have, well, that's true. And I do. And I love the scenery around, but
Yeah.
it's the utility as well, where, having some sort of transportation system out here, it really wouldn't work. But in
Right.
urban areas, even for a considerable urban sprawl, yeah, sure.
Totally. When everybody's sitting in their cars in traffic, you look at
Oh.
LA, it's like, that's not how that should be
I
done.
can't deal with it when I go there now. I can't. It's
Yeah, Montana, yeah, you should have a car. But
Yeah,
but
right.
you're using less other stuff. You're using less other stuff out there. It's like it
Yeah.
equals out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing, man. That's so true. So speaking of which, talking about AI and self-driving cars right now, I kind of want to drive it myself, I really do. I think that oh yeah, okay, I get it, falling asleep at the wheel. I don't want an excuse to have another drink, or any of that. And really, I guess that, call me paranoid, but what about the hackability of all this? Like I keep, thinking of these
Yeah.
posts that I've seen where you have these huge semis driving down the road, and God forbid there's some guy in a van with a joystick, going wee, and the next thing you know, it's like, yeah,
Well, we'll see. It depends. If there's like big wealth disparity,
yeah,
and the rich end up in auto cars and the poor end up walking around or in on shitty skateboards or something, then the hacker kids, for fun, are going to start fucking with those people, just figuring out what can we draw. I mean, did somebody trapped an automatic car in a circle. They drew this shape that trapped it so it couldn't get out because it thought it couldn't read, what were the lines on the road. There's going to be a lot of it's just going to be too tempting to undermine the rich by hacking into their drones and stuff. Yeah, and that'll happen. If it was genuinely egalitarian, if everybody got these things the same way we get TVs, then I don't think there'll be the same rage.
Great point. Great point. Yeah, yeah.
But I was in a rental car, and it nudged. Did you ever been in a car and it nudges you? Like it doesn't like you're getting too close to the lane, and it kind of shoved me. I was like, ooh, I don't know if I, I don't know if I like that.
I haven't. Yeah, I haven't seen that. I haven't experienced that one yet. But you're talking about cars with the newer tech, right? That,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it was just like, oh, this is just a different experience for me.
Yeah. exactly. So
I
so
don't like auto correcting on my fucking typing either. It's like, no, that's not the word. I did mean this word. I hate that.
tell me about it. Or you would think that by now the whole, speech to text would be, and I find myself talking into the phone like this
I
just to
get
make
so
sure it
mad.
doesn't misspell anything, and it's unnerving because if I don't look, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And half of that's for your convenience. Half of it is because they're collecting all this data. And they know, oh, look, his words are a little bit further apart than usual.
yeah,
I bet he's getting the flu, or he's getting that, or he's
yeah.
becoming less cooperative. We must send more
Yeah,
programs.
right. So do you think that I mean, do you think that the sort of onward march of this stuff um is not really so much of a threat, especially even to artists as th- we might think, or that the hype would lead us to
It's a
believe?
threat to artists and everybody if our value system changes. In other words, if people really, I mean, a friend of mine, an artist, Molly Crabapple, started this petition. I signed it too. That's saying, you can't just use all the art that we've done in order to make new art and make money on it. That's not fair. You're copying us, and then
Hmm.
that you can't do that. And we want you don't subscribe to companies that use AI generated art because you're putting real artists out of work. And it's not just that we should value real artists and their work. I mean, there's a bit to be said. First they came for the cab drivers, and I said nothing because I am not a cab driver, right? Then they came for this, I said nothing. Now they came for the artists. They're coming for you too. They're coming for everybody. But
Yeah.
it's not just to stick up for them and their right to make money. It's sticking up for what is it we actually value. What are
Hmm.
you? Do you want to listen to computer
Hmm.
generated music that had no human? Who and what is that experience?
Well, but
What is that?
this is Doug and Vinny agreeing on that. So
Yeah,
we have our own aesthetic that's been honed over many decades, and we it may not be fair for us to sort of tacitly superimpose that, saying, you know what I mean, because there are a lot of people that don't have recognize certain kind of qualitative things
right.
we may recognize in music.
But the reason why we have to stand up for that is
Yeah.
because human society itself is threatened by a lack of attention to the value of humans.
Okay.
So we've got to retrieve that, or we're all going.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
You know
Uh,
what I mean? So it's like, yes, I get that, and there is, and I loved Kraftwerk and Lyle May's synclavier music and programmed music, programmable music, and I love it most when it's a computer and a human being interacting in some way. I mean, so if right now our greatest um, problem as a society and a civilization is a billionaire class that believes that you and I are the larval stage of humanity and that they and their friends are the ones who are going to sprout, artificially intelligent wings or virtual reality somethings and be able to spawn on the other planets without us, then there is a job of the artist to wake people up to that, right? To wake them up from the soporific, hypnotic buzz of music that's being generated by corporations who do not have our best interests at heart,
yeah, but
and wake them up.
okay, how do we do that? I mean, we've if those people or those corporations or those entities that somehow dominate the dissemination and the sort of distribution of why huge amounts of music and information to huge audiences. you know they don't, they would rather just keep people as dumb as possible, I
They
think.
would.
And
They
so
would.
for us to try to sort of you know bring that back on an indie level is kind of a herculean task. probably not that much different than trying to save the world with rock concerts. And it's, we've seen a million of those, and it hasn't happened yet because we have people that probably we can't even see. Dare I run the risk of putting on a tinfoil hat? And I will run that risk, that are just not having it and saying, yeah, you go ahead and put on all the concerts you want. Here's how it's really going to roll. And we're going to see to it that that's how it is. And I think that that's even happening now more so, and that it's even more obvious with all this sort of ESG stuff happening, and these non-governmental organizations that are sort of telling us how they think the world should be, and how, I'm thinking, wait a second, I didn't elect you. Who are you? And where did you just emerge from? Telling us, oh yeah, this is how it's going to be. No, not so
Right. You
fast.
basically have two camps. You have people who are fucking us up because they want to fuck us up, and people who are fucking us up in an effort to help us, right? And the problem with all of these things is that they're operating at scale. Once you try to operate at scale, it stops working. I mean, that's what Taylor Swift should have learned, right? She did her concert, best intentions in every single way, and Live Nation still fucked over everybody, and Ticketmaster and whatever, it still didn't work. What works is not trying to create an indie music scene at scale, but is process, playing music with other people, going local. I'm sorry, I don't mean that you are not great, but I can go to Dobbs Ferry, to Tarrytown, to Yonkers, and I can hear 4 or 5 people playing music together brilliantly. Brilliantly.
Sure.
Any town, any night of any week, you can find brilliant people. The guy who was, oh my God, he played with, these guys, and he's, Stanley Jordan is over there. This one's, there's even greats. There's music everywhere. Go in the room with the people playing the music, and something will happen to you. Recorded music is a great thing. It's a great thing. But even when it started, there were people like Walter Benjamin saying, yes, recorded music is a great thing, but you're going to lose aura. You're going to lose something. I'm happy for recordings. I love recordings. It's an art form, making recordings. Nothing wrong with recordings, and there's this other thing that happens when you go to a room. Doesn't have to be, what's that thing, Calawega or whatever, one of those giant, I forgot the names of these, Lollapalooza and all those things. You don't have to go there and see the band. Go down the street, go to the bar, go to a bar mitzvah. Even then, there's moments that are just like, oh my God, the sax guy, fuck man, you're good. What was that? They're playing, whatever, they're playing Celebrate.
But that's New York too. And in that, and then that's those areas, you're going to find that you'll find that. But
go to Omaha, Nebraska.
You may see something different in Omaha, Nebraska. You may see something that has its own aesthetic that's a little different than what you're talking about. So it's not necessarily going to elevate the art in a sense that, you know what I mean? But
it's not going to elevate the art, but you go, I know you go to New Orleans, you'll see something that's elevating the art, but you can find bluegrass, you can find country, you can find live people play. Live people playing music. There will always be something happen. There's moments in it that, especially when it's people and you make eye contact with the dentist who's in a cover band, and they're doing, and it's like, it's beautiful.
It is. Well, look, something? That's like there have been so many clubs in the greater LA area that have shriveled up over the past several decades.
What is that about? They're all gone. All the little New York clubs. We're like Smalls or the places that Village Vanguard. There's more people here than ever before.
Sure.
Why are there fewer venues than ever before?
Tell me about it. And the thing is that some of these places were not just, musicians going to hear musicians. It was Joe Q public and regulars that came in. Oh, here comes Brian and his girlfriend, that would just show up, and you got to know them, and they weren't musicians. Meanwhile, we're up there playing and taking solos and the whole bit, and they just showed up because they liked it.
They like it, and there's a learning curve. The first time you go, it's like, oh my God. The 6th or 7th time that you go, you're starting to understand kind of how it works, and you can hear other things. It goes deeper and deeper in.
Yeah. It was amazing, you know, and so support live music and that kind of that kind of
Yeah.
social interaction. You know, not only that, but economically it was different too. I mean, you know, a friend of mine were talking about that where, you know, musicians were, you know, that were playing in clubs were buying houses, you know, now, yeah, not
Yeah.
so much, but, you know,
Right.
not to get off into an economic tangent, but, yeah, you know, and there's all these little places and, maybe it speaks for a lot of things. Maybe it speaks for not just social interaction, but it speaks for the process and maybe a little bit of decentralization and empowering people on levels that they're just being edged out of now because of convenience or because you know somebody shows up with a turntable and now you don't see musicians anymore. And I don't know. I mean, it's. I just think that I'm not sure how to
It's
combat those.
people are afraid of people is what it comes down to.
There you
If you have
go.
a live musician in a room with people there, it's uncomfortable because, well, what if I don't like what they're doing? What if they're uncool? What if they're this? Where
How
if
am I
it's
going to react?
records, you know, it's the same, but it's what, you know, exactly, exactly. And although I'll tell you, I don't, that's another story. But the it's the same thing as like in I'm trying to encourage people to ask other people for favors. It's like you
Yeah.
got to drill a hole in your wall because you're going to hang a picture. You're going to go to Home Depot, get a minimum viable product drill, use it once or twice. It's not going to recharge, or you're going to keep it in the garage, and you're going to throw it out, right? So
Yeah.
some kid went into a mine in the Congo to get the rare earth metals for your friggin' rechargeable drill. Then you're going to throw it on another toxic waste dump over there, all the
Yeah.
pollution, all this stuff. Go to Joe's house. Joe's got a drill. Joe's got a good big metal drill. He builds stuff. He makes stuff. You're going to ask Joe for a drill. Know what Joe's going to do? He's going to say, I'll not only give you the drill, I'm coming over and I'm going to drill the hole for you because I don't trust. I think you're not going to be able to find the stud. And Joe's going to come and drill the drill. We don't want that. Why don't you want the favor from Joe? Because, well, if you let Joe do that for you, now you owe Joe something. Oh my God, what if he asks you to, because I know math, what if he wants me to tutor his kid before
Yeah.
an algebra test? Now, oh my God, or what if Joe wants to come to our Christmas party now because now he's on the
Yeah.
same block?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Exactly.
It's like that we're afraid of each other. And that's the Spotify cell phone social media universe has exacerbated our fear of live interaction with other people. I get notes from kids the first day of class, please excuse Johnny from their psychiatrist. Please excuse Johnny from class participation because he has social anxiety. And it's like one every couple of years. I get like 3 on the first day of class every year now. It's like, wait a minute, that's a problem. And those are the right. So
Yeah.
so when I'm saying go to the bowling alley and just hear that band, I don't mean like that's going to be necessarily great, but you're in a room with people making music.
Yeah.
Start there.
Absolutely, man. And even if the guy with the drill says, "No, you don't owe me anything," you won't believe him.
Yeah.
You know, you won't believe him. But
And the fact is, you do owe him because you're in a community with another human being. And yes, you should drive his kid to the hospital if they need it, or teach them algebra if they need it, or help him dig a hole in his backyard. That's why we're here. That's the process.
that's just out of your humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the missing link.
Because even that you owe him so much, but in a sense we owe it to each other, but we don't. Like I understand that I grew up in a rural small town and people just defaulted to that. They just defaulted. You didn't even think, you know, if you needed, someone would be driving you to the hospital. Someone would be, yeah, you know, oh yeah, let me help you do that. You know, let me help you move house. Your friends would do that. I've had it happen to me. Whereas nowadays it's like, forget it. It's like, I've got to hire a moving company and the costs are exorbitant and yeah, whatever. But yeah, wow, this was quite a journey here. We covered some ground. I mean, from AI to this, but I think that there is a thread because we don't want to lose our humanity in the face of AI or the promised convenience of it all. You know?
Right. Because you will get all your results, you know, you'll get all your the object of the game is not to finish. In sex, in music, in anything, right? It's to be in it. It's to be in it.
Yep.
And that's when you're in it, it's the divine but frightening state of being a living human. And that's, you know, we've just got to build tolerance for
Yeah.
that again. Spend
Yeah.
5 minutes with somebody to
Yeah.
start, then 10, and build up.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah, amen to that, Douglas. Amen. And I think that's why some of these things that may really be a danger to us digitally, will be sold just on convenience, and
Yeah.
kids want to buy the newest cool thing, and it's more important than anything else. Anything to make people lazier. So
And dumber.
yeah,
Kids are writing their paper with ChatGPT.
yeah,
They're missing I get it, writing a paper, but the whole thing, we made school so unfun, so unnecessarily unfun.
yeah,
It's going to force us, and that's good in a way.
yeah.
How are you going to make school compelling? How are you going to make learning compelling again? Oh, by making it relevant and interesting rather than all this bullshit that they're teaching.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's awesome, Douglas. Thank you so much for your amazing adventure, just talking to you, and your insights, and how informative, and wow, this has been a blast, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Been a blast for me too. What town are you in?
I'm in near Los Angeles. I'm sort of like out in the Netherlands of the greater Los Angeles area, but I'm out of the city. So
All right. Well, I'm coming to Los Angeles next month, so I will look you up.
you got to look me up. Absolutely, absolutely. So everyone, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'm sure you got something out of it with this gentleman. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for the next episode of Breakfast with Vinny.